Josh Hamilton is probably the most famous example of a player who performed vastly different at night than he did during the day. It was his blue-eyed theory that made headlines in 2011 when he explained to the media that it was harder for him to see during the day because of his eye color. We've come a long way in the stat world since 2011, and while you can't exactly query players' eye colors, you can retrieve almost everything else there is to know about them. At this point, you can slice and dice a player's stats up, throw a catchy caption up there, and rewrite a player's entire narrative if you so choose. But, I mean, come on. Splits are addicting to look at, and even the simple ones are still the most fascinating. Like Josh Hamilton, today's game features several players with glaringly different day-night splits, with the largest gap coming from, interestingly enough, Juan Soto, who excels much more at night than he does during the day. Similar players include Isaac Paredes, Jesus Sanchez, Willy Adames, and Christian Walker. We'll call this the Batman group, since they prefer working at night. But then there's the flip side, the guys who thrive during the day. Maybe we'll call this group Daymen. Shout out Always Sunny. Leading the charge here is Rafael Devers, who, since 2010, holds the largest reverse OPS gap out of any major league hitter. He's not necessarily a bad hitter at night, but he is a legitimate superstar when playing during the day. His career OPS in this split ranks 4th, only behind Ohtani, Trout, and Judge. And even if you include the steroid era, he's still top 20. One of the more interesting parts of this split difference is the fact that he doesn't change anything. His approach stays the same. Swing percentage, chase percentage, walk rate, nothing changes. But while the approach stays the same, the results differ quite drastically. Visualizing the run value makes you realize that it's not just a per pitch advantage. He's better on the aggregate as well, which is kind of nuts considering the fact that he's had 1,500 more plate appearances at night than during the day. And there's 3 main drivers for this daytime success. The first is 3-2 counts. One of the things that I couldn't figure out when I was looking at the numbers initially was where the success was even coming from. He wasn't walking more, he wasn't hitting the ball harder, and he wasn't pulling the ball more. The obvious things that you would look for in a case like this were turning up blank. And then I looked at his production in each count. And oh baby did we find a major driver. At 6.62 run value per 100 pitches, Devers absolutely dominates this count. For context, here are the MLB leaders in this count since 2017. The thing about 3-2 counts is that they hold a lot of weight. It's sort of like the light version of 4th downs in football. You'll either increase or decrease your team's chance of scoring in a meaningful way, much more so than in any other count, or on any other down, if we're staying with the football analogy. Devers smashes 3-2 pitches in the daytime. On balls in play, his expected weighted on base is 633 in the daytime, compared to 449 at night. And there's really no fancy way to describe what's happening. He just hits the ball better. The second thing driving Devers' success during the day is his Fenway advantage. You can see from this graph that both the day and night game performance are higher when he's playing at home. But of course, day games at home are his bread and butter. It's not surprising that he'd enjoy a home field advantage, as Fenway is a hitter-friendly park. But it is a bit surprising how drastic it is. Think about it this way. In his career, Devers has racked up 67 run value in all of his night games. And in only his day games at home, Devers has accumulated 55 run value. That's an 8,000 pitch advantage in which Devers has only managed to beat himself out by 12 runs. The third and final driving force behind Devers' daytime success is the wheelhouse. In day games, Devers does outsized damage in 2 specific zones, down the middle and low and in. The expected numbers on contact are pretty telling, just as they were in the 3-2 count. But what's interesting about this split in particular is that Devers is pulling way more of these pitches in the day than he is at night. On top of that, he's hitting more line drives. And if we know anything about StatCast data, it's that pulling line drives is a recipe for success. This is the part of the video where I'm supposed to tell you why this is happening. And I've thought about this a lot. I've got nothing. I don't know what's going on. At one point, the best lead that I had was eye black. You know, because Devers wears eye black in day games as well as in night games. So I was like, okay, maybe he sees better during the day because of the eye black, but for some reason it messes him up at night. And then I realized Aaron Judge does the exact same thing, and that dude has no trouble hitting at night. So that kind of went nowhere. I think what we need to do is crowdsource this thing. Any and all ideas are welcome because, like I said, I've got nothing.